Hello, everybody. Joe Gavalis, back bringing you another hour for the Safe Senior Hour here on America's Web Radio. I wish you all had are having a good day as we are here. Today, we're going to go over a few items that we talk about a lot, but these are going to be about actual cases and issues that affect everybody. Before we start, we've got to remember that elder abuse doesn't report itself, and our definition is our use is three types of abuse. One is physical, two is financial, and three is institutional. And as we talk about these, just think about people you know, yourselves, your relatives, your friends, who might have been involved in some of these type situations that fall into the different categories. And it's a shame that people are in any of these. And why are we talking about seniors? Because seniors are basically, of this generation, are basically susceptible to frauds because of their caring and their trustworthiness. People basically in our generation tend to trust people, and we've basically saved money. Maybe not a lot of money, but some money. Maybe we have it in a CD. Maybe we have it in a box, hidden in our bedroom. But we're able to save some money. And third is that we really love our families, we love our kids, but more importantly, we love our grandkids and nieces and nephews. And the scammers play on all three of those items I just discussed. They knew you're trustworthy, so they can make deals, they think, over the internet without anything in writing. That they certainly try to get their hands on your money. And unfortunately, on the financial side, not only professionals, but as it turns out, the majority of them are going to be relatives, family members, or people you love and trust. And that's a concern. So we're putting everybody unaware, or making everybody aware that you need to be on the lookout. You need to protect yourself and have somebody you can confide in. A lot of times it's a lot easier when you think something's wrong is to talk to a friend, talk to a pastor, a priest, a rabbi, whoever it may be, whoever in your faith that you can trust, and just run some of these things by them before you get hurt financially and or emotionally. And certainly when you get into the institutional type issues, we all know what looks right. We all have a gut feeling. And if you remember on some of our previous shows, we've had the ombudsman, several ombudsmen speak, and that there is always a voice in an institutional setting, whether it be a nursing home, assisted living, personal care home, in most states and countries where you can go to and confidentially speak to them concerning your issues or issues that you see at those institutions. And they will help you or help your loved one or help the person that's in the institution find some results in what they can concerning their issues and their complaints. In Georgia, what hit the news, and I'm going to read some of it because it's kind of a sad state, but this is a type of a situation that takes place. This happens to be in an assisted living facility. And the article is pretty interesting to the point that things like this that you might think are just an everyday nuisance or an everyday occurrence really can form a bigger problem. And the headlines here, this was in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. This is from a lawsuit that is being filed. Lawsuit, ants, bites, left 92-year-old suffering in assisted living home. Now you would think, well, you see ants, it wouldn't be that much of a concern. But days before she died, ants repeatedly found in a woman's bed and on her body at an upscale facility. The article goes on, it says a 92-year-old resident of an assisted living facility died last fall after ants, that's ANTS, bit many areas of her body, her family says in a new lawsuit. This woman and her personal aide saw ants in her bathroom and closet at the senior living place here in Georgia, and reported the infestation to the staff. But a week after the report, the victim was found suffering from bites with ants on her body and in her bed. Her bed was dusted off and clothing was removed from a closet. The next day, after that was done by the company, the victim was found again with ants on her body and with pus-filled bites across her midsection, underneath her breast, and other areas, according to the lawsuit. And apparently, according to a retired nurse, according to the lawsuit, that was agitated, moaning, and scratching the blistered areas, and was put on morphine and other pain medications. So here's a 92-year-old woman that's just suffering. And they were told a week before that this is what was going on. She apparently was in tremendous pain, according to her son. 6 days later, she died. Now, the victim had some other serious health issues and was on hospice care, but was stable, according to her family. Her death was accelerated and her suffering was increased because of this. So what started out as somebody seeing ants in a closet a week before has now grown to a major issue of what was done. Was it done prudently? Was it done correctly? When they picked the facility out, according to the article, they picked this out because they felt it would be a very good facility. The fees at this facility could be around, well, it's $4,800 to $6,300 with memory care. And they figured they were paying top dollar to take care of it. Now, whatever happens in the lawsuit happens. But the importance of this article to our listeners is, if you see something, go outside, try to get it corrected, bring it to other people's attention. Right, they brought it to the attention of the facility, and something was done. Now, whether it was adequate or not, only the lawsuit will tell. But tell other people. And in Georgia and in many other states, you have a mandated reporter. The reporters had an obligation to tell this condition with this woman with her ants infested bed and all over her body. This is something that needed to be reported outside the facility so that professionals could come in and make sure it was taken care of. That no one should have to live through or suffer, as they said she was suffering, with being covered with ants. I can't think of a more outrageous situation, to be honest with you. Horrible. But that's just an example of what somebody might see when we talk about, remember, the three types of elder abuse: physical, financial, institutional. Here's a situation that was brought to the attention and has grown to a lawsuit. the goal is to protect the senior, is not to file lawsuits. The goal is to how our seniors live in a fine, clean area, home, assisted living, nursing home, personal care home, where they can live a good and normal life. So for all you people out there, and when we say it, elder abuse doesn't report itself. This woman didn't report it. It has to be up to her siblings. So it's a horrible situation, but only you all can see what's going on. The professionals aren't enough professionals. There are not enough adult protective service people in the United States. There's not enough law enforcement to be everywhere to see what a situation like this. I have no idea how this lawsuit will come out. And again, I'm not here taking any sides. I'm not a lawyer, but it's a situation that should be of concern to all of us, especially people who have loved ones in a facility. And again, remember, I think as I read off the dollar amount, the facilities aren't cheap. And you're paying good money. You expect to have your loved one being taken care of. So again, if you see something, say something to a professional. Elder abuse doesn't report itself. The other topic I want to discuss here before we go into a more detail on some cases is a couple of cases that came down that we highlighted here, that a Jamaican citizen pleads guilty to defrauding an elderly Albany, New York couple. This case was done in the Northern District of New York, Albany, New York. The announcement was made that a gentleman pled guilty to 1 count of mail fraud conspiracy and 12 counts of mail fraud. An elderly couple residing in Albany County were contacted through the mail and by telephone and told they needed to send money in order to obtain an inheritance and tax refund and claim lottery and sweepstake prize money. I mean, that's like 4 of the issues that we talk about all the time that you look at on financial scams. But what was interesting, the victims were instructed to mail bank checks to addresses in Georgia. Now, they mailed a total of 12 checks. 10 of these were payable to the defendant. And the only role this person did was playing a middleman. As we talked about being a mule, this is one of the mules where they go and collect money and then pass it on to other people. The defendant, who is in custody, faces 20 years in prison and a maximum $250,000 fine, and he gets sentenced in July. So I think we need to be looking at these type of cases. So with that, we'll end our first segment of the Safe Senior Hour.
Whether cruising the strip in a 57 Chevy or taking the family on a vacation in a 71 Oldsmobile Vista Cruiser, you need to tune in to Classic Cars with Steve Ronaldo and Jim Weber every Saturday from 8 to 9 a.m. on AmericasWebRadio.com.
45 years of experience is behind the most trusted name in auto transportation. Passport Transport, the first and finest today. That's why Passport Transport is the preferred auto transport for major auto manufacturers, farmers, museums, tours, and collectors, and should be your choice from across the state to across the country. When you have the need, go to PassportTransport.com
the shower doing?
I'm fine.
Very nice. I got to keep reminding me of not to date the show, like Easter or whatever it is, right?
Okay, coming back.
Well, welcome back to the Safe Senior Hour as we go into our second segment. In the first segment, we talked about some issues in personal care homes, assisted living and nursing homes to make sure everybody's aware of things that might look suspicious. And I gave an example of a lawsuit here in Georgia where a 92-year-old woman was apparently covered or certainly had ants all over her bed and all over her body, and allegedly caused her great discomfort. Now we go on. What I'd like to do, we had a gentleman on, Steve Baker, who does a fraud report. We had him on previously. He'll be on again on the show, but he does a report that you all should look on the internet. It's the Baker Fraud Report. His latest one that came out, and I just want to go over a few of the highlights of that report. The IRS and tax fraud scam, which goes on all the time, especially around April, dealing with taxes. They were able to sentence to prison in Las Vegas a couple for stolen identity refunds and took $2 million and laundered it in the casinos. That's a $2 million scam. They were sentenced and got caught. And the state of Michigan warned about bogus letters being sent to people claiming people owe state taxes and must call a number listed and threaten to seize their assets. These are the, as we know, the not only it's at the federal level, it's at the state level. Jamaica and lottery fraud. Victim of Jamaica lottery fraud lets police know fraudster to appear at a house to collect $100,000. The fraudster runs down the victim while escaping, and the driver was arrested. The significance here is they were there to collect $100,000. These people are bold, and they'll come there. You did not play the Jamaican lottery, you can't win it. Remember that. And dealing with romance fraud and a group called sextortion. Nigeria sentences romance fraudster to a big month in jail. Police in Texas looking for a man who received romance fraud money, and also sales of non-existent food articles. The federal police in Nigeria have arrested a romance scammer that impersonated U.S. soldiers. As we said on these romance scams, that is the big area right now. The scammers are using is saying that they're a soldier, that they're in Afghanistan or they're in Iraq, and they are working there, and that their only way to communicate is by computer. They can't use cell phones, and they're prohibited from going on where you can talk on the computer because of military restrictions, when in fact the people never really existed. So it is a big deal, and then they announce here A woman wrote a book about a romance scam that she met on a dating site and lost over $1 million. Again, I know everybody's trying to find Mrs. Perfect, Miss Perfect, Mr. Perfect. You know, they're few and far between. And again, do not send money to people you don't meet. If you've never seen the people, a picture on the internet means nothing. They can be whoever they want to be and pose whatever they want to do. So it is imperative that that you remember that. And if people ask you to send money by buying debit cards like iTunes cards or other cards, please do not do that. That is an indication, should be a red flag to you, because as soon as you give them their excuse me, as soon as you give them the ID number on the back of the card, that money is gone, and they immediately cash it in. So as you can see, some of these scams are pretty sophisticated, and some of them are concerning to individuals as people are coming to houses to collect. So y'all just be careful on those type of schemes. We spoke last week, and I had a law enforcement meeting, and we started talking about this handbook that people are using, and these professionals are using to scammers use to trick their victims. And we were at that meeting encouraged to get to go over this with people throughout the United States about type of scams and things that people will say to get you to do things. And I think we need to, we're going to go over these, this segment, and then we're going to go into some other scams, and you can see how it's used. The idea of how people approach a victim is significant when you read the handbook. Is you'll get a blind email, or if you're on a dating site, or if you are on Facebook, somebody will come out and say something to get your attention. For example, these are suggestions from the handbook. I can't think of anything better than getting a reply from you. I want this message to be the reason you smile at your screen. Do you ever feel like something really great is about to happen? I kind of feel that way now. Remember, all these are to get your attention. If you respond to one message today, let it be mine. I kind of, sort of, well, pretty much think you seem amazing. You want to chat sometime. These are people that just throw these out, put them up on Facebook or other internet areas, and people get curious enough, especially if people are lonely and they want to talk to someone. How can it hurt talking on the computer? If you wanted to talk, it definitely make my day, or maybe my year. And when people ask why and say, you know, how did you get my name, or why are we continuing, or why are you asking me to continue these conversations? They have great statements like, you make me smile, that is all. I want to be the reason you look into your phone and smile. My atoms are attracted to your atoms. It's chemistry. They just have these general statements as come-ons. And then they are very detailed about, made up about where they're from, what their life has been like, to get sympathy from you so you continue to contact them. Again, this applies to both male and female. They'll make up an extremely detailed past, with one story being they were born in Scotland but moved to America and became widowed when his wife died of a migraine. I was emotionally devastated when my wife died, but I stay firm and strong for my beautiful daughter, Lisa, the manual reads. They'll ask questions like, your worst moment in life? Well, May 12th, when my mom died through heart cancer. Have you ever thought of leaving your country in search of the man you want to be with in the future? Yeah, like I said, I would swim 1,000 rivers and climb 100 walls just to be with the person I love. These are all come-ons. These are things that are in the manual that they are telling people to say to get you to pay attention and listen to them and try to answer them. What languages can you speak? Which would you like to learn? I speak English fluently. But you'll only confer with them on the internet. You'll never talk to them on a phone. They'll come up with a lot of reasons because these people a lot of time are foreigners and are not fluent in the language. What are the 5 most important things in your life? God, family, love, my daughter, and living to help others without asking for anything in return will be what they'll suggest. Very, very compassionate, very caring people. The handbook also suggests using a story of childhood hardship, of how their dad died when they were a child and their mother raised them on her own before passing away in 2001. Even the most minute details are mapped out, with pages dedicated to favorite color, favorite food, hobbies, life goals, favorite music, favorite movies, turn-offs, fears, and even what superpower they would like to have. These are all kind of things that a manual for the scammers say to get you to buy into their come-ons. And there are 10 pages purely filled with random details about this made-up person that the scammer is pretending to be, and an answer available to any question that you as the victim could potentially ask. We'll end this segment now. We'll come back and continue looking at the manual of scammers.
Perhaps you are struggling to cope with the disease of addiction. If not, you probably know a family member or friend that needs help in battling the cravings and the personal and professional damage done by the effects of drugs or alcohol. Get a pen and paper and be ready to write down the following. These are the issues that the trained staff at the Atlanta Healing Center address and treat every day. Their doctors and counselors with over 40 years of practice in the field of addiction can treat the suffering individual in a thoughtful, compassionate, and experienced manner and guide him or her along the path to recovery. So call 770-696-9862 and speak to the knowledgeable staff member about how you or your loved one can be helped to enjoy a better and healthier life. More information is also available on the website at www.atlantahealingcenter.com.
This is Daryl Bush inviting you to listen to America's Homegrown Veggie Show right here every Saturday morning at 10 Eastern Time. Great guests, great tips, and valuable information about growing your own vegetables, fruits, and herbs.
Get your pen and paper ready. If there's a move in your near future, I'm here to tell you that the folks I used and recommend is around town movers. Timothy and the guys recently moved me, and I am and was totally satisfied with the not so fun experience moving. Call Timothy at 770-378-4708 and make it a good move and a good experience. Around Town Movers For that local or cross-country move, Timothy, around town movers, in my opinion, are the best. That's around town movers. Call it.
You're listening to America's
Okay, coming back.
AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
Welcome back to the Safe Senior Hour. Joe Gavalis here. Remember, elder abuse doesn't report itself. We'd love to hear from you with your stories, with your comments, or any questions, and you can send us an email at safe@americaswebradio.com, and we will be glad to answer your questions or put the comments of interest on the air. We were, in the last segment, we were talking about some information that was obtained from the Scammers Handbook that professionals were using. And I was at a law enforcement meeting discussing various topics, and they felt that this would be of vital importance to go over this with the listeners, so you can hear how a scammer is being prepared, what they are taught to say, things they are taught not to say. And this will help you, or help your loved ones, or help your friends know that they're in the middle of a scam and not of a real relationship. The handbook had 10 pages purely filled with random details that made up the person the scammer is pretending to be. Remember, these are phony people, phony lies, phony pictures, and they're there just to try to get your feeling. And it starts out usually at a small way here, in terms of, we'll talk every week, or we'll talk every day, and it gets into months, and at that point, then they start asking for various funds. The manual warns scammers not to profess their love to the victim too soon, as it may scare them off. So, it's not going to happen in the first couple of emails where all of a sudden the person on the other side, be it male or female, expresses their love for the victim. Excuse me. Usually within a week or so of a meeting, the scammer will ask their victims for a small amount of money, possibly in the form of a Google Play or iTunes card. I just happen to have a Apple from a little bag that I use for presentations. This is an App Store iTunes card, and these are the new currency of the scammers. Whether it's Apple iTunes, whether it's Lowe's, these are the debit cards, because on the back of the card you scratch off and there's a number, and that's what gives immediate access to the scammers. When they feel the victim is getting more comfortable, the scammers can then choose from a numerous long messages to copy and paste in their conversation. Remember, when we say paste or copy, they're not going to talk to you on the phone. They want to do this certainly at the beginning of the scam. So you're going to question, well, why don't they make calls? How can they tell their victims they don't want to make a call and get away with it? Well, the manual says why we don't make calls. Sorry, I can't call you because we are not allowed to use mobile phones here, because the Taliban insurgents can manipulate it to detonate bombs. So for security reasons, we don't use phones. And sorry, we can't talk on the phone until I'm out of here. Or, how's your life over there? Do you like your job there? I hope I can get to know you more, though, because I hope to make an honest friendship with you more. Warm hugs to you. If the scammer can't speak English very well, they will try to avoid speaking on the phone with their victim. A section titled "Why We Don't Make Calls" offers some excuses scammers can use when and if their victims presume them to talk over the phone or a video chat. See, they don't want a video chat because they're not real. They're people, but they're not who they say they are. One suggestion revolves around the story that they were on a peacekeeping mission in Afghanistan and it would be extremely dangerous to use a phone. Sorry, I can't call you because we're not allowed to use mobile phones here because of the Taliban. The suggested conversation gets increasingly loving, and the manual even includes a very graphic sex dream that they talk about, that the person talks about the victim that they have. Love tales. They give them a long list of lovey-dovey messages the scammers can use to woo their victims. Hey, beautiful, I just wanted to do something simple to say I love you and to put that smile I love so much back on your face. I want everyone to know how much you mean to me. Ever since you've entered my life, I've been flying on cloud 9, and I have not come down yet. I miss you all the time. I can't bear to be without you. Sometimes when we don't talk for long, I find that painful. Then when we do, I find that painful too, because I know how much I'm going to miss you when you leave. I tell you this every day, but you're the most beautiful person I know. This is a printed statement that they are taught to put in an email or to communicate it to you. It's usually around this point when they start writing these letters back and forth, talking about how they love you and put a smile on your face like I just read. It's usually around this point that the scammers start to ask for more significant amounts of money as they feel they have gained the trust of the victim. So what started out small now has escalated to where the scammers are looking for more money. Again, you got to remember their goal is obviously not to meet you. Their goal is not to carry on meaningful conversations because they're lonely. Their goal is to get money and things of value. They have some common excuses that they use for needing money. Or this is what the manual says. Through customs, oil rig repairs, wire, they need this. They need to get money to come through customs. They need for oil rig repairs, wires of cash to see their children or family back home, medical bills, emergency repairs or supplies, or to come and visit, buying airplane tickets. I'm familiar with a case right now where the individual has dished out more money in airplane tickets and has actually been to the airport to meet the victims, been to the airport to meet the person who they believe is the love of their life, only to find out they were unable to get on the flight. They missed the flight. Something came up, they had to change flights. So consequently, these long trips to the airports did not happen. And happened, but nobody was there to meet them. If you think or you know of anybody who has had any of these conversations with people on the internet, or they related them to you, please get a professional involved. Call your local law enforcement. Call your adult protective service. Call whatever agency in your country that you need. These victims are all over the world, and they prey on people, and there are millions of dollars being taken here. It is a sad state of affairs. And romance scam is just one of them. And I think that we need to remember that if you are talking to somebody on the phone, on the computer, the computer is the greatest barrier you can have, because what people say on it, you have no idea that the person saying it, who they are, or the reason they're saying things. The pictures are not of themselves, can be of anybody, and you are there asked to believe, this is my picture, this is how I look. In one of the cases that I'm familiar with, it was a gentleman who started a conversation, lasted about a month, nothing other than just chit chat back and forth. Oh, we have so much in common. Oh, I'd love to see you. And then said, well, I'll send you some pictures of myself. Well, they send these beautiful pictures. It turns out to be a model in Europe. And of course, the victim says, wow, this person is everything I ever dreamed of. And said, well, they start asking questions. Well, send some pictures of me so I know who you are. So the gentleman sends a picture. Well, then the professional on the other side says, well, since we are in love and we are going to go meet and get together, I'll send you some really good pictures of myself. And they ended up sending pictures of partially clad woman who's that same model, or totally naked, and then asked the gentleman to send a picture of himself. Well, in this case, he foolishly sends a picture over the internet of his male parts. And so now they have a picture of him there naked with his male parts. He believes he's got a picture of this girl he's dealing with when it's not. So what do they use this picture for? In the case I'm familiar with, after the exchange of pictures, they started upping the amount of money. Well, I need $6,000 to pay my attorney so I can leave the country and get over to see you. I have to travel with my mother, and I need money for her and me to travel. So money was sent in terms of airfare, but it wasn't sent. It wasn't paid to the travel agent. It was paid to the victim, paid it to the perpetrator, and therefore it was just basically converted into cash. Some of it was paid in iTunes cards, where it got $5,000 on iTunes cards. Meetings were set up, and the perpetrator didn't show. The gentleman made various trips to the airport, couldn't meet them. Then all of a sudden, he started realizing that it dawned on him, and the much he didn't like it, because he was hoping this was true, this relationship, well, that this is a scam, and brought the professionals in. Well, this loving person, who he thought was the love of his life, now changed to be an extortionist. Threatened that if he didn't continue to send money, they would send a picture of that he sent them of their personal parts. And with that, we'll continue that in the next segment, so you all know what's really taking place in some of these romance scams.
The Docs for Patient Care Foundation is your way to join the fight and become a member of an organization created by doctors for patients.
Can you imagine?
Fighting for your healthcare freedom and preserving the doctor-patient relationship. Get a pen and paper. Write down www.docsforpatientcarefoundation.org. That's www.docsforpatientcarefoundation.org. Go to our site and please make a generous tax-deductible donation and join the fight today. Thank you. Perhaps you are struggling to cope with the disease of addiction. If not, you probably know a family member or friend that needs help in battling the cravings and the personal and professional damage done by the effects of drugs or alcohol. Get a pen and paper and be ready to write down the following. These are the issues that the trained staff at the Atlanta Healing Center address and treat every day. Their doctors and counselors with over 40 years of practice in the field of addiction can treat the suffering individual in a thoughtful, compassionate, and experienced manner and guide him or her along the path to recovery. So call 770-696-9862 and speak to a knowledgeable staff member about how you or your loved one can be helped to enjoy a better and healthier life. More information is also available on the website at www.atlantahealingcenter.com.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
Welcome back to our final segment of the Safe Senior Hour. Remember the email that safe@americaswebradio.com to send your comments, your questions. We'd love to hear from you all. We were in the middle in the last segment of a matter that I'm familiar with, of an individual who had met, it was a male who met a female on the internet, and turned out pictures were exchanged. The pictures of the perpetrator turned out to be of a model in Europe, but they had asked for pictures of the victim. He sent pictures, and then as the relationship continued, the pictures that were being sent by the perpetrator were of a partially nude woman or a totally nude woman, which was not the perpetrator. It was a picture they got out of, I guess, magazines or somewhere, or off the internet, not magazines. But they asked him for a picture, and so he sent him a picture of his male parts. And so it's right after that they started asking for more money being sent, being bought, and those iTunes cards that we talked about earlier, or cash being wired overseas. And then the gentleman said, well, wait a minute, this is getting out of hand. This is getting to be too good to be true. So he put out that he wanted to stop this and challenge the people. Well, this loving relationship that he thought he had changed immediately. And this woman who he thought he was talking to all of a sudden changed and said, do not think about stopping sending this money to help me and my family. Or if you do, I will send this picture that you sent me to your family, your friends, your coworkers. Well, with that, the concern grew and grew, and the gentleman's got professional assistance. And once the assistance and people got in, he realized he was definitely being scammed. And the issue is that they then changed from just asking for make sure he pays money, and if they don't, they would post the semi or the picture that he sent of his male parts and post it on the internet to actual physical threats. If you don't do this, we'll harm your family. If you don't do this, we'll harm you. We know where you live. We know, and they go through this whole deal of this intimidation, extortion to keep the money flowing. As we talked earlier, this whole deal is for money. And that's all these people want it for. And they operate in a professional manner, and they have people that will fill in for them. They'll have people that will then contact the victim, because if all of a sudden this perpetrator's story doesn't encourage the victim to send more money, they'll have somebody else contact the victim, and maybe they'll work their magic with them. The whole goal is money. So if you know of anybody who is talking or has fallen in love with somebody that's overseas that they've never met, they've never seen, and is sending money to them, either by wiring money or buying these iTunes cards, that is a giant red flag, and that you should try to help them and look out for and try to encourage them to not to do that. It's just throwing money down the drain. And these situations are sad, and they're happening all over. Canada is really being hit. The UK is being hit. Australia is being hit. We saw, I think it was Hong Kong was being hit. This is a worldwide problem because there is always that criminal element that are looking for the easy money. And I remember being at a meeting talking to seniors, and seniors, as if you remember, I said in the first segment, we're very trusting. We have a little bit of money, and we love our kids, and we love our grandkids. So I had a 84-year-old woman at a meeting said, I hear all this, Joe, but what job? What is their real job? And I said, their real job is they're thieves, and their job is con men or con women, and they were there to get your money in an illegal way. And you got to remember, you're just one, when they're talking to you on the computer, you're one of probably 10, 15, 20 they're dealing with. And all they have to do is convince one person to send money, because the money comes over. They don't pay taxes on it. The money comes in, it goes into a big pool, and these people are just workers. I think I spoke to you maybe 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, where actually, and I saw it, there was a ad in the dark web, and the dark web is this web where these con artists and everybody conduct business. And I think I told you it was in a Wall Street Journal article. They talked about how much on the dark web, personal information is easy to obtain for a cost, or financial information. Well, they also have basically, believe it or not, want ads saying wanted, all from people to go pick up money, to people who want to be imposters, to people who have an experience. And the more experience you have, the more money that they'll pay you. And so consequently, people go from scammer to scammer because they go where the money is. And as long as the money's flowing in from the victims, everybody's happy. Once it's shut off, as you can see by the scenario I just told you, it went from this loving relationship, you're the one, to now an extortionate situation. And these are people who have one thought in mind, is to get your money. Now we talked some about, that was on the romance scams. I was at a meeting, and I did hear that in Jamaica, which are the lottery Jamaica scams, that the business is so big that it's operated by gangs or groups, and that they actually fight for a part of the business. And there has been reported, or allegedly reported, that there are that murders have taken place by the professionals trying to gain territory and gain access to lists, to call, or to take over the business. So again, how lucrative this is just amazing. And again, their one goal is to get your money. That's why I can only encourage every one of you, if it's happening to you, talk to some professionals, talk to a personal confidant. Just get it off your chest that I've been doing this. And people understand why people get involved with relationships on the internet. But again, it's when you have to start sending money or buying iTunes cards or debit cards, whatever they want to call them, and then give them that number to people you have never met or you have never seen other than a picture. I think I discussed last time this horrible situation in British Columbia. A woman felt that she'd met the man of her life, who was over in the Middle East, Afghanistan or Bangkok or whatever, and he convinced her. Again, these are professionals. Showed her a picture that he was I think a U.S. serviceman, and that convinced her that she should sell her money, sell her house, convinced her to sell her bonds, fly over, and start a new life with him. She did all that. She flew over. There was no person meeting her. There was no a new life to start. So remember, if it's too good to be true, it usually is. We constantly want to bring this to your attention. Confide in other people. There are people out there looking to get your money. And again, if you have concern, send us on an email to safe@americaswebradio.com. And as we always, as we say, elder abuse does not report itself. So, think of your fellow seniors and fellow people that you care for, and try to help them, because we are the ones that can do it. This program is to serve that issue all over the country, all over the world, trying to get people to help. So with that, this concludes another session of the Safe Senior Hour.
Hey, Kurt.